Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa, hey, yeah. Whoa,
Say what?
hey, whoa,
3-6 Mafia.
hey, whoa,
It's going down.
whoa,
Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street.
Everybody, and welcome into a late night edition of No BS Season 2, Episode 3, recapping a busy day in the NBA postseason. With that, folks, Cal McClure joining you folks in San Diego, as always, joined by Trevor Williams and Isaiah Lee Young, and also welcoming a couple of great Laker correspondents to the program, Freddie Smith and Big Baby Jonathan joining us tonight. With that, first, Trevor and Isaiah, good to see you fellas. How we doing tonight?
It's great to see you, Callan. Good to have you back, man. It's been a great day. First of all, my Lakers got our first ever playoff win in 7 years. I mean, let's celebrate, baby. And secondly, it's great because I had a dream started like 6 months ago that LaMelo Ball would end up with the Golden State Warriors so I could anger all the NBA fans out there. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see LeVar Ball in the Bay Area, and it looks like it's going to happen, man. Looks like LaMelo Ball is coming to the Golden State Warriors. So it's been great, man. Great day overall.
Trevor Williams, good to see you, sir, and how we doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. You know, we've got a lot of good NBA basketball tonight. A lot of teams redeemed themselves in game 2, so we're satisfied with that. Love Isaiah's excitement. So, you know, this show's about to get lit. I can say that for at least.
And also a warm Isaiah, go for it. What do you got?
Yeah, I just had another accident with the party popper. Instead of popping into the soda, I popped it right in my coffee.
Oh my gosh.
Isaiah, this show is 2 minutes and 15 seconds old, and we're already having problems on your end. Way to go, buddy. With that in mind, Freddie, good to see you again, man. And again, we thank you for helping out on Wild Sports Talk and also now on Fan Response. And great to see you again, my friend. How we doing tonight?
I'm good. Just good to be here on a good win because I told Steven that I was going to join on the show. Kind of emotional if it was a loss. I called out Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and they answered.
And also a warm welcome to No BS to our man, Big Baby Jonathan. Of course, folks, John does a lot of great work covering the Lakers with his podcast every single evening and pretty much every day. And Big Baby, a warm welcome to you, man, to No BS. How we doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited for this win that we just got, man. I'm pumped up, baby. Let's go.
And, of course, folks, as usual, we'll take your input, your questions or comments on the sports world, and for that matter, the NBA, of course, down below. And again, if you do write in, much like what we have down below, we can put your comments down and live on the air. With that, guys, a couple of big game 2s, mainly, but more so tonight with the Lakers, at least with this game 2. Really, guys, in a way, you know, probably I'd say this. And again, I've been out of the loop for the past 4 days, helping a friend move and stuff like that. Haven't been able to watch a lot of the games or stuff like that. And just by judging, I think, by the web, you know, if the Lakers, in my mind, kind of let game 1 go by the wayside. You know, it wasn't a good game across the board. And then tonight, though, responding like I think a championship caliber club would bounce back after a rough night at the office and coming out and pummeling the Blazers tonight, 111-88 in game 2 to tie up the series 1 game apiece. So, in retrospect, they split the first 2 games technically at Staples Center, if this actually was, in fact, the way it was supposed to be. But, Trevor, I'd say this, man, that this was a night and day game and series for the Lakers. Again, rough down the stretch last night, coming back and punching this Portland team right in the mouth, right where, of course, they had to do that last night. All around, I think the Lakers did a complete 180. Great play, great shooting and stuff as well. Trevor, your overall thoughts, though, for the Lakers going from game 1 last night to that disappointing loss to a big-time game 2 blowout tonight over Portland?
I think this game starts to make the statement that the Lakers are playoff ready. They're ready to take care of business. They're ready to finish the series so they can, you know, rest their players up for more difficult challenges down the road. But some key factors that I noticed, if you want to win most of these playoff games, you got to score at least 30 points a quarter to be able to compete and win these games. If you score anything below that, it's going to be a long, tough night for you. And just one key factor that sticks out to me was Carmelo Anthony He only produced 2 points out of this entire game with 27 minutes, 1 assist, and for field goals, 1 for 6. He had a bad night. Well, I know the first game he had 11 points. That's very helpful in contributing, but you're like still of a star player. You should be able to produce at least 10 points and support your team. And that he wasn't there tonight. It was just like he was a ghost, and that's a shameful for the Portland Trailblazers in general. But hey, I think he's going to be able to bounce back next game and recover, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to get over the Lakers and beat them in the series.
Isaiah, I know that obviously the offense in my mind for Portland always runs through Damian Lillard, especially when the team's behind the 8 ball by a lot, as we have seen plenty of times where he's come back and just caught fire, lightning in a bottle, and he's just rattling off threes and getting his team in the ball game. The Lakers held him to 18 points tonight. I'd say that's probably a pretty good night containing him with that scoring offense. Only 18 for Lillard, 13 for McCollum, 9 for Nurkic inside. And then as mentioned, as Trevor alluded to again with Carmelo, 2 points tonight in the game. And really the Lakers, I think, did a phenomenal job on defense, maybe a bit better than last time. Isaiah, what are your takeaways from tonight as opposed to what the Lakers did in game 1 last night?
Well, my takeaways is that, number one, I think Anthony Davis and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope actually watch Wild Sports Talk because they came out the way that me and Jonathan Mathis, my co-host on WST, said that they needed to. Well, like I said on Wild Sports Talk, that the Lakers should lock Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in his hotel room, take the key and leave him in there, and don't even let him on the bus. Don't even let him go out of the hotel room until you get back from this game, because that's how useless KCP was. And KCP, he answered the bell, man. The guy had 16 points, 2 rebounds. He was very effective tonight on offense and defense, shutting down Damian Lillard. Really good job, man. He answered the bell, and Anthony Davis as well. Me and John both said that Anthony Davis had to be aggressive in this game too, because in game 1, he wasn't really that aggressive. He needed to look to score the basketball, and he did that, going off for 31 points, 11 rebounds, in 29 minutes of play. It was just so fantastic to see these two guys go off. And the Lakers just got some unlikely contributions from JaVale McGee. J.R. Smith stepped up with his 11 points off the bench. Dwight Howard had 9 points, 5 rebounds off the bench. The Lakers got contributions from guys that didn't step up in game 1. Those guys stepped up in game 2. And the defense, man, you mentioned it early on, Talon. The defense was really good, suffocating Laker defense, just like how the Lakers played in the regular season before the season shut down. They limited Damian Lillard to 18 points in 30 minutes of play. CJ McCollum to 13. Nurkic had 9. And yeah, the rest of the other Trailblazers, they only had single digits in points. So really proud of the defensive effort. I think game 1 was a wake-up call for the Lakers, and I'm just so glad they responded the way they responded tonight, because they needed to respond with a blowout. It couldn't be a 5-point game or whatever to alleviate all the worries. No, you had to respond with a blowout, and they did just that.
With that in mind, fellas, LeBron James has held the 10 points, Freddie, in this game. And I think that mainly in recent memory, LeBron sometimes, I think in a lot of people's minds, seems to go into like a shell sometimes in the postseason. He kind of shies away from the spotlight. In my opinion, that's just my thoughts about LeBron. And I think, of course, game 1, he'd say that. But I think, though, tonight really showed, though, that the Lakers needed to get someone like an Anthony Davis, right? Another superstar alongside LeBron for the ride, because LeBron can't obviously strap that piano on his back and carry a ball club, through the regular season into the playoffs and beyond. And tonight, I think, really proved the point that Anthony Davis is probably going to become a Laker full-time. Again, a 31-point game to probably, or not really probably, but supplement a very poor night for LeBron James. Freddie, in your mind, though, how much of a confidence factor could this be for AD with a 31-point game to really, I think, kind of show people, hey, this is why I'm here to help out LeBron?
It can be a huge factor. On my show earlier today, All Sports All Plays Network, we was talking about Game 1. I called out LeBron James and I called Anthony Davis out. When you come to LA, us Laker fans expect one thing. We're not satisfied just making the playoffs. We're not satisfied making to the conference finals. We're not satisfied just making to the finals. We're satisfied with winning the finals. LeBron, he asked for this. He had to step up to the plate. Anthony Davis the other night had 21 points the first half, and then they had like 8 or 9 the second half. We need more from that. And tonight we had just that. Anthony Davis was dominant. He was the best man on the floor on the court tonight. He was dominant on the offensive end and also the defensive end. LeBron James, he gave us what we needed. Yes, it wasn't 30 points, but guess what? It was just 10 points. But guess what? He did other things. He played good defense. He passed the ball good. He rebounded good. He was the leader on the floor tonight. Without him, we would have lost the game as well. We had a KCP sighting. I still say that Frank Vogel needs to take Danny Green out of the starting lineup, even though he made a few threes. Then he put Kyle Kuzma in the starting lineup because ever since Kyle Kuzma starts, we have big games out of him. We had a big night from JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. I was actually happy to see Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith get some playing times. Caruso was big playing defense on Damian Lillard. I mean, we're not as good offensive team as Portland, but we're an elite defensive team, and that's where I think we turned it up at. We still didn't shoot the 3-ball extremely well, but I think we can get better, more reputation that we get. Because we have to remember, Portland have been playing playoff games ever since they came in the bubble. The Lakers haven't. The Lakers are actually off for a whole week, but that's still no excuses. LeBron, you came to LA for one reason, and that's to win a championship, and you must deliver.
Absolutely. And Big Baby John, man, the Lakers, of course, first playoff win since 2012, or at least somewhere in that time frame. Again, very tumultuous time for the purple and gold, and kind of getting back on the ways. A couple comments first from Christy Wilson, who says the Lakers must have heard the critics like FS1 Skip Bayless ripped them and responded with this victory tonight. And also to my great friend John Tyler, who says, man, so much for Game 2 for Portland. I'm sure things will straighten out once they host games 3 and 4 at home, ... by virtue of this being a bubble environment. And John, hopefully you're doing good, my friend, fellow public address announcer out there. But John, honestly though, man, like we've said though, is I even told a friend last night, for the Lakers to have any kind of chance to win this game, they would have to clamp down on Damian Lillard, not give him any open shots, maybe double teams early, triple teams if need be, or have a very good prominent defender. I made this comparison last night with one of my friends on the phone talking about the Laker game last night, was that let's do it this way. Let's look back at how the Lakers played Milwaukee at Staples before the shutdown when they put LeBron on Giannis. I don't think Giannis scored another basket in that game. He couldn't miss, or he missed shots from close range. I feel like the Lakers, Big Baby, had to go that route, getting LeBron or getting someone with tough defense on a guy like Lillard. So, John, give us your thoughts about what changed in your mind from Game 1 to Game 2.
Lakers stepped up their intensity, and they did not play soft like Sharman. They engaged defensively, offensively. They had 26 assists, shut down Damian Lillard. I really liked the intensity. Danny Green struggled, but he did other things, played defense, deflecting passing lane. Same with Caruso, same with everybody. It stepped up tonight. I know LeBron only had 10 points, but AD stepped up. I just love the defense. And we shut down Portland's offense. Defense with championships. I'm just excited that Lakers weren't. They didn't come in, we're going to try to get up on them. They just, from the start, they punched them in the mouth. I like it. No soft like Sharman tonight. That's what I'm talking about, Lakers. That's how you do it. I love what we did tonight. I really liked what we did.
Yeah, I really liked it as well for the fact that, 9 times out of 10, guys, when a team like the Lakers or a team that has had good regular season success kind of in a way struggles in the first game. Maybe it could be called a freebie or a free spot on the bingo card. But damn well, though, that a team like the Lakers will respond in a big way, as we now, folks, are privileged to be joined on air tonight by our fellow Wild Sports Talk host, another big-time Lakers fanatic. That is our man, the sports judge himself, Jonathan Mathis. John, good to see you, my friend. No, it's been a couple of days, man, but how we doing tonight? And good to see you.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. Recapping this Lakers blowout win over Portland tonight. And, John, we pretty much been talking about here pretty much, my man, about how the Lakers really, in a way, polished up a lot of things tonight in regards to defense, taking baskets, maybe some changes in the lineup or the rotations and stuff like that. And really, though, that the Lakers proved to be that championship team, though, hey, they get knocked down, they get right back up, punch someone right in the face, and take the victory. John, your observations about what in your mind changed for the Lakers from last night to this evening, or from game one to game two?
It was a great way to respond. The Lakers came out with a lot of sense of urgency. If you watch early on, Anthony Davis, he kind of set the tone. I like what he did on both ends of the floor. I thought he was aggressive on the offensive end and the defensive end. And I think that's what all made the difference. When you have a generational talent like Anthony Davis, you have to allow him to set the tone. You have to let him be that dominant force that he's capable of being. And we saw that tonight. It seems like at times in game one, he was non-existent. Then your role player stepped up. You saw KCP, who I was very critical of in that game one loss. He stepped up tonight. He made some big shots. LeBron was more aggressive. They came out and they had their mindset on this game, and they blew them out. Now, I was very shocked by the blowout. I didn't expect them to blow out Portland the way they did. I didn't anticipate that. I didn't even see that coming. Did I think they would win? Yes, but I didn't think it would be a blowout. But it was impressive by the Lakers, just a wonderful performance, well-rounded performance. And if they keep this up, they'll take the next 3 games, no doubt about it.
Trevor, as we look at this game again, the Lakers win handily 111-88. Series tied now going into the road game. And I think for the Lakers, Trevor, they're probably in a way like wiping the brows off, like, okay, good, we don't have to play this at the Rose Garden / Moda Center. Again, the Lakers have not had a lot of success in Portland at that venue in their franchise history. And again, we know about how Moda Center has been. But Trevor, in your mind, though, does the series in your mind kind of in a way maybe boil down to game 3, that if someone, regardless of who wins, that they might take maybe in your mind full control of the series, or what probably in your mind? How big, though, is game 3 in your mind with the series tied 1-1?
When you split a series going 1-1 and looking at game 3, it's like that pinnacle point of that ride or die. Because if you lose that game, you are trailing in that series, and you almost have to win 2 in a row to put the other team into pressure. And for that game 6 or game 7 scenario where it's like, oh, I have to go out and play so I don't get eliminated. So winning game 3 is like the pinnacle point in most playoff brackets. So if you end up losing it, you're trailing forever, and you have to win 2 games to, rebound from that. So I think if the Lakers can able to do it, they're in the driver's seat. They can almost coast in the game 4, still play solid defense, and they can walk out and, be like 3-1, and then it's just over after that.
Definitely agreed. And Isaiah, same question to you, though, is how critical in your mind, though, is game 3, but also in your mind, though, who is game 3 more critical for in your mind, Portland or Los Angeles, and why?
I think game 3 is more critical for the Lakers because normally in a 7-game series, game 3 is the pivotal game of each series. Because if you win that game, you set an advantage. Like you could go to game 4 and you have an opportunity to be up 3-1. But if you're down 2-1, then you're going to have to exhaust a lot of energy into trying to tie the series in game 4. But the Lakers just got to keep playing the way they played tonight with suffocating defense. The role players got to step up. Anthony Davis has got to put the team on his back and carry the team because we know LeBron's going to be passive, and the Blazers don't have anybody that can handle Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis has got to go off, and I think the Lakers will be fine.
So pretty much the Lakers get the vote there. Freddie, how about you? Which team in your mind probably maybe, because we talk about momentum, guys, a lot in sports in regards to, they have the momentum, we have the momentum and stuff like that. But really, I don't think it really matters until the game actually gets played. Freddie, in your mind, though, more pressure in game 3 on Portland or the Lakers in your mind, and why?
Honestly, Portland is coming. I don't see Dame Lillard having an off night 2 games in a row. With a dislocated finger or a broken finger, I don't see it happening. So the pressure's on the Lakers. When you're an elite team like the Lakers, when you have 2 superstars and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you have to shut down the 8th seed real quick. You cannot let them stay alive in none of the in a series at all. You have to finish them. And one key thing I say, you need to finish the series real quick, real fast, because I would like for them to get a little rest before the second round. But like I said, it will take for LeBron James to step up. It will take Anthony Davis to step up. Contavious Caldwell Pope. We need more games out of this. Hopefully, we'll have a Rondo side on Saturday. We need a Danny Green to step up. Kyle Kuzma. It starts from the leaders on down. But I definitely believe the Lakers will take Game 3. I think they're finally getting in a rhythm. I think their Game 1 have woken them up in a way, and I think they know they have to finish it or sooner or later.
And again, I was looking over a couple of things here. John, how about you in your mind, though? More critical or who has more pressure in Game 3, the Lakers or the Blazers?
Well, look at it from this standpoint, guys. Who has the more pressure? Who is the number 1 seed? Who is the number 8 seed? There's more pressure on the Los Angeles Lakers. We talk about this all the time. This is a storied franchise with 16 NBA championships. The pressure is on the Lakers. The Lakers have 2 perennial All-Stars, LeBron James, a 17-year veteran. Then you have Anthony Davis, a generational talent who's still in his prime. This team has a lot of pressure on them. I think the pressure is on them going into Game 3. Game 3 is a must-win for the Lakers because if they don't, then that gives Portland all the momentum in the world. And we all know what they are capable of doing when they have all the momentum in the world. And that's something you don't want to give them. You don't want to give them any ammunition at this point. You got this win tonight. You're feeling good about yourself. Great. Continue that. Stay on this consistent pattern and try to get that next victory. But it's not going to be easy, but I do think the Lakers will get Game 3. If they get Game 3, this series is over.
Guys, I pulled up a couple of stats here real quick from a website called WeGotThisCovered.com. I'll read these very briefly about advantages in a 7-game series. They first say about Game 1, the team that has home court advantage in Game 1 has a 53.2% chance of winning the entire series. A win in Game 1 for the home side drives this percentage up by nearly 13%. Thus, a Game 1 win for the home team means they have a pretty good shot of at least 66%. Game 2, things get complicated. Simply note that a 2-0 series lead means that the team will have a 84% chance to win the series if at home and a 79% chance to win if they are away. Thus, in a way, Game 2 could be critical. Here's about Game 3, though. Should the series be deadlocked at 1 apiece, contrary to popular opinion, Game 3 is not as important as other scenarios. A Game 3 win actually at home actually only increases a series win by 15%. So, I mean, it could be a lot of things there. But again, I think, though, that more so, I think it's definitely on the Lakers. They have the pressure right now. They get that win in Game 2, get momentum probably back on their side for the time being. And now, though, playing again a road game or games for 3 and 4. But also, you got to pretty much play how you played Game 2 like you played Game 3 now. Good defense, good shooting, and stuff like that for sure. With that in mind, guys, over to another Game 2. And by the way, folks, you can vote in our vote in the poll questions and, of course, share your thoughts as things, in fact, progress on. That now, guys, moves on to the second game of the Mavericks-Clippers series that, of course, was really highlighted, though, or spurred by the ejection in Game 1 of the Unicorn, Kristaps Porzingis, in Game 1. And, of course, the Mavericks winning Game 2. So now they are also tied at 1 game apiece as well in their series. And, Trevor, man, obviously, the Lakers and Clippers, for the longest time, by a lot of people, have been on a collision course for the conference final. I mean, it's been that way for a long time. Both teams are seeded 1 and 2 right now in the Western Conference. But now, Trevor, I'd say the same thing, though. In this series, Game 3, tied at 1, who has more pressure, the Clippers or the Mavericks?
From seeing what we're witnessing, I think the Clippers have the most amount of pressure out of, I guess, anyone in the playoffs because the Dallas Mavericks has been giving them true competition. Compared to Portland, Portland was dominated the Lakers in game one. The Lakers responded back and dominated in game two. So, like, you're going to may have a back and forth between who dominates the other. But if you look at the Dallas Mavericks and Clippers game, it was fairly close for most of the game until one ended up pulling away. So we can't really dictate who can win game three. So in most quote-unquote series, this is technically game three is at the Dallas Mavericks. So it's possible for them to end up keeping this game at home and making it 2-1, forcing Kawhi to play a lot harder in game four than he ever has to play in an opening series that he has ever gone up against. So this is going to be interesting, but I'm going to put this out there. I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to win game three and going to force Kawhi to do something amazing in game four.
Isaiah, I think now that the Clippers probably face I know it's tied, but now it just kind of feels like in my mind that we've kind of seen this story over and over again the past several years with the Clippers. They get up in a series, lose a game, and then sometimes fall by the wayside. And I think that the Clippers probably, while I think that they were very cautious about Paul George and Kawhi throughout the regular season, where again, I have said plenty of times that I really would not put a lot of stock with the Clippers because there still may not be that cohesion. I know it's probably, overstated or overhyped though, that, they haven't, they'll be fine. I think though, when you add two bona fide superstars to a team like the Clippers, who have been good for a bit over the past couple of years, that now truly have two franchise cornerstones of their organization, but they're not playing together. They didn't play together a whole lot. I think it just throws the whole team for a loop though. So Isaiah, your thoughts? More pressure in your mind on Dallas or on the Clippers for game three?
I think it's more pressure on the Clippers. But before I get into that, though, I just want to give my thoughts on this game two victory by the Dallas Mavericks. Listen, I got two things to say. Number one, this game two victory by the Dallas Mavericks over the Los Angeles Clippers just makes the Kristaps Porzingis ejection in game one look even worse. Because when you look at it, with Porzingis on the court, the Dallas Mavericks have looked like the better team against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers, everybody talked about this whole offseason and this season before it got shut down about how the Clippers had the best perimeter defense in the NBA and that they would suffocate whoever they played in the playoffs. Well, that's not the case so far. Luka Doncic has been absolutely torching the Clippers on the perimeter. You got Seth Curry, he's been lighting the Clippers up. And then Trey Burke in game two, he was lighting the Clippers up. So all that things that people said about the Clippers perimeter defense being suffocating has been it's been nonsense thus far. But I just think, Dallas should be up 2-0 in this series had Porzingis not been ejected in game one, because I think they were on their way to winning game one until Porzingis got kicked out of that game. But hey, I'm a guy that picked the Dallas Mavericks to beat the Los Angeles Clippers in an upset in 7 games. And I'm standing by that prediction, because if you look at it right now, Clippers are looking really bad. Plus, they're going to miss Patrick Beverley for an undisclosed amount of time because he has an injury to his lower left leg. And also, the Mavs just are showing the world that they have the chemistry, they have the cohesionness, which the Clippers don't have. And Paul George, he's choking in the playoffs like he usually does. So I'm not surprised that the Mavericks are up. But Talon, to your question about which is more important, game 3-4, it's got to be the Clippers. Because if you lose this game, then you might be on your way to losing the series, simply because the Mavs have looked like the better team thus far, and you got to turn that around.
I would agree. And again, I think that game one probably, Freddie, in my mind, could have been a lot different if, in fact, Porzingis is not tossed from the game again. I think, though, mainly a very, very quick trigger pull on that technical foul and the ejection, I think. I mean, he was trying to come over, kind of break things up, and not stir the pot. And again, I think it was a very, very ill-advised, very big missed technical foul issued in that situation. But Freddie, are the Clippers in your mind right now imploding after what we've seen with that loss in game 2 against the Mavericks?
I really wish they would put this show on ESPN, on Fox, on all these major markets for one reason.
Thank you.
For one reason. I'm tired of inconsistency. We had to be consistent. When the Lakers lose, all you hear is it's over. This is not a championship team. It's LeBron James look awful. Anthony Davis look awful. But when the Clippers lose, it's a whole bunch of excuses. We need to hold them to the same standard as you hold the Lakers. You were saying Kawhi Leonard is on the way. He's coming to take the crown from LeBron James. You were saying that they're the deepest team. They're the best defensive teams. We haven't seen two wing players like this since Michael and Scotty. They've been saying all this. But guess what? They should be down 0-2 to a young Dallas Mavericks team. Hey, and I'm telling you this, I will make a prediction. My boy Isaiah says 7 games. I say 6. The way the Mavericks is controlling the pace, shooting the ball. I mean, the reporter, the announcer said the other night they've never seen a Clippers team switch their defense this much. They don't know how to guard Porzingis. And then Luka is doing whatever he want to do at will. He's shooting the ball. He's assisting the ball, rebounding. Then you have a guy like Seth Curry. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, this team is loaded. The Clippers, if the Kawhi, if you for real, you need to step up. I mean, if you want to take LA by the keys, you want to take it away from LeBron, you need to step up. But I'm calling it all ESPN announcers, Fox Sports announcers, and all of them. Be consistent. Hold them to the same standards. I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of every night, every morning, you watching the same thing. They're not being consistent.
I mean, I think Freddie's onto a hell of a point, though, John, in regards to, hey, it's got to go both ways. I mean, if the Lakers lose one game and the Clippers lose a game, why do the Lakers have to get why do the Lakers always get the short end of the stick when it's like, oh, the Clippers will be fine? You know what? It's like, come on, give me a break. But with that, though, John, in your mind, though, do you agree, though, in regards that maybe that the Clippers probably are now feeling the pressure with the series tied 1-1, where really, honestly, they probably know in the back of their mind we really should be down 2-0.
Yes, they really should be down 2-0. If Porzingis would have stayed in that game, I think Dallas Mavericks would have easily won that game. They had the lead when he got ejected. So I think they were, going to win that game. Now, the Clippers are the better team on paper. But in reality, looking at this series from a broader picture now, you can clearly see who the better team is, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. Look, Luka's only 21 years old, and he's balling out of his mind. He is just amazing to watch. I know you guys seen that incredible feat that he accomplished yesterday. He became the fastest player to score 70 points in 2 playoff games. That is remarkable. I mean, he is, dominating in epic fashion. And then you have Porzingis, who has, revived his career in Dallas. It's amazing to watch. What is going on with the Clippers? What is going on with Paul George? This was supposed to be the 2 best wing players, in the Western Conference. What's going on with that dynamic duo? Why aren't they playing consistent basketball? It's concerning. The Los Angeles Clippers are concerning, and it looks like they're not the team we thought they were after all. They gave so much credit about how good their bench is. They said that their bench was the deepest bench in all of basketball. Well, what is Lemon Pepper Lou doing right about now? What are these guys contributing off the bench? I haven't seen the Clippers play their best basketball at all. And if you're a Clipper fan, for the few who are Clipper fans, you should be very concerned with this. I would be if I was a Clipper fan. I mean, they're not playing the best basketball, and Kawhi Leonard has not really stepped it up. He hasn't looked like the same guy that he was in Toronto. He was just a dominant wing player in Toronto, and he pretty much helped get that team to where it got a year ago. Well, you know what? Now I'm not even so sure, because look at the Toronto Raptors without him. It seems like they got even better without him. Fred VanVleet is balling out of his mind. But I mean, you have Kawhi Leonard here in Los Angeles, and he's not living up to the weighty expectations that was placed on him. I don't know. I just don't see them winning this series. I think the Mavericks have all the momentum, and I think the Mavericks will take game 3 and they will just coast along the way and take this series from the Clippers. I had originally said the Clippers, but the Clippers right about now, they don't really look like a playoff team.
Trevor, I just have this very interesting question pop into my head that I will get to in just a moment, or get to before, or we'll get to right now here, is, I've been thinking about this throughout this segment, and Trev, here the Clippers have kind of, in a way, finally found their niche and found, and kind of found the, finally, in a way, got themselves going as my San Diego Padres walk off the Rangers 8-7, not via a grand slam. They did hit 4. We'll talk about that momentarily or later on in the program, though, as in a brief few minutes here. But Trevor, I've had this thought, though, that the Clippers have finally, as I said, kind of got themselves going, kind of got a cool thing going on here, cool story, bro. But now I've had this pop into my head, though. How much longer is this leash going to be for Doc Rivers if he can't get these Clipper teams to get into the conference final or the NBA finals? Because, of course, this Clippers team has not gotten past round 2 in the past 5 to 7 year window that they've had open. Trevor, if the Clippers continue to fall short of the conference final or even the NBA finals, but maybe right now let's go with conference finals, and they still bring in these guys like George and Leonard and they don't produce, how much longer can the Clippers afford to keep Doc Rivers around on the sidelines as head coach?
That's a really good question, and it's a tough one to decide because if you're looking at what we've seen over the past 5 years, even like this past decade, there's been super teams in the West that just make it completely impossible for Doc Rivers to actually penetrate and actually get through. You have Popovich in the Spurs in the early parts of 2010 with the Spurs. And then right after the Spurs dynasty at that point, you have the Warriors going underway. So you have that with the Splash Brothers getting hot, and then KD gets thrown into the picture. So, like, how do you beat a 4-squad super team? Like, that's unheard of. No matter what superstars you bring into a team, trying to get that team chemistry down, that's near impossible. And now the Lakers got new weapons in. It's like he couldn't catch a break. So, yes, he has Kawhi and Paul George, but like they need another piece to be able to either beat LeBron James and AD or somebody that can lock down one of them to cut down some of that scoring potential. So I don't know what they have to do at that point to get over that hump. It's like a few options left, but it's just at the worst time, like wrong place, wrong time. I guess that's at that point.
Isaiah, what do you think? The Clippers, in a way, have finally turned a corner, perhaps, won over the LA basketball fandom for the past several years as the Lakers are going through one of probably their first major downfall in the past several years and several decades. And, of course, never were able to get through round 1 or get through round 2. And, again, all this while Doc Rivers is leading this ball club for the past several years between the Lob City era and now where they're at right now, as Christy agrees. She says that Doc needs to just loosen up his grip. Isaiah, though, if in fact the Clippers keep sputtering in the postseason, early exits in round 1, that could in fact happen again this season, or maybe it perhaps goes into round 2 and they flame out to the Thunder or the Rockets maybe. Isaiah, how much longer do you think the Clippers could afford to keep Doc Rivers on the sidelines if in fact that this does not continue to go right for LAC, and why?
I think that this season, I think you have to give him a pass for it because he just got Kawhi, he just got Paul George, and they haven't really built up that chemistry that you need to win a championship. So I think this year I would give him a pass, like no matter what happens. But if he can't win a title next season, then I think you might have to start thinking about moving into a different direction simply because you've had so much talent here to work with and you just haven't delivered. You haven't even gotten to a Western Conference Finals, let alone an NBA Finals. So I think it's for Doc Rivers this season, you give him a pass, and then next season it's either you bring me to the NBA Finals or you're gone.
John, what do you think
Yeah.
about this? I think Isaiah's onto a good point, though, that maybe it may have to be, in a roundabout way, maybe a free pass, like, hey, he just got these two new guys in. At the same time, though, I think I could probably agree, like, okay, maybe, but at the same time, though, these are two bona fide, workhorses and superstars. And like I said, though, earlier, there were many games, John, that the Clippers would not play those guys in the same game. Kawhi would play one night, and then George would be off for one, would be off that game, or vice versa. We very rarely saw them play together in the regular season that I can recall, at least early in the year. I know PG had a shoulder injury that he was coming back from. But still, though, man, I think that might be a bit of a downfall for the Clippers. But, John, do you agree with Isaiah's point for one, though, that maybe it's a free pass here, but also how much longer, though, could the Clippers afford to keep Doc Rivers on the sidelines for this Clippers basketball club?
I do agree that he gets a free pass, only because these are two new superstars that he's coaching. I mean, they're getting acclimated to a new team. Yes, they are bona fide superstars. Yes, they are impact players. So, with that being said, yeah, you should be able to lead this team to a Western Conference Finals. And with the depth that you have on the bench, you should really be able to come out of the West in some people's eyes, But I think he does get a pass. Now, Doc Rivers has been the Clippers coach for a long time now, and he had two superstars before Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Remember, he had two marquee players in Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. I understand that Blake Griffin was hampered by injuries a lot over the course of his career while he played in LA, but still, Doc Rivers had great teams and was never able to get over the hump. I mean, he has a good regular season record. He reminds you of a George Karl or a Marty Schottenheimer. He can get you there or close enough, but then can't finish the job. Now we saw him in Boston do a good job and lead that team to a
Definitely.
championship, but that was a different cast of players as well.
Definitely.
I mean, you can argue that Doc Rivers is a tremendous coach, but at the end of the day, if things go awry, the coach takes 90% of the blame. And if a team's going to go in a new direction, they're going to get rid of you and they're going to, start over by hiring a head coach. But I do think he gets a pass this year. And next year, Doc Rivers, if he can't get this team to a championship, I think his seat gets hot. I really do.
I think a lot of people probably would agree, John, with that aspect. Isaiah, you have more to add about this series. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to one of Freddie's points. He said one of the announcers said that the Clippers have done a ton of switching on their defense, and they just can't figure out a way to stop Kristaps Porzingis. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you can't stop Kristaps Porzingis, how are you going to stop Anthony Davis? That's why I think that if they match up in the Western Conference Finals, I think the Lakers have a massive advantage simply because the Clippers, you're not going to be able to throw Zubac or Montrezl Harrell or Patrick Patterson and Anthony Davis. If these guys can't stop Porzingis, how are you going to stop Anthony Davis? So I think Anthony Davis will go off if they do get to a Western Conference Finals, and I think the Lakers will bully their way to a win.
With that in mind, folks, we'll still stick with the NBA. Move on, though, to a couple other game twos, guys. We're gonna kind of in a way pick up the speed a little bit, but not too much here. There were a couple of other game twos tonight in the NBA, or earlier today at least. Trevor, basic question: whose game two win in your mind was more impressive, Milwaukee over Orlando or Miami over Indiana?
I think the Miami Heat game, Miami took care of business. They were the favorite in that game. A lot of people say it's going to finish in 5, some saying 6, but it seems like Miami's in the driver's seat taking care of things. So it's really not impressive. But at the same time, I look at the Bucks game, they really turned it on today, taking care of business. Last game, I did a little article on it, and it just showed that the Orlando Magic took care of business in game 1. their bench, they only had 4 players on their bench who actually played, outscored 7 players on the Milwaukee's bench. It was like saying, wow, that's really that bad. You let that happen. 4 people score more than your 7 on the bench. It's like, you can't let that happen. Even though it's like a 2-score difference, it was 37-35. It was just like, come on, you're the Bucks. You're a better team. At the same time, it's like the role players are different on the Bucks compared to the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic have injuries. So for them to steal game 1 was impressive with what they had, what was going on. But like, the Bucks really took care of business, and it showed that they were a playoff caliber team right then and there. So I think the Bucks had a more impressive win in game 2.
So one vote on the panel for Milwaukee's game 2 victory being more impressive over Miami beating Indiana. Isaiah, how about you?
I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. The Milwaukee Bucks, the reason why I say it's not that impressive is because it was expected. You know, the Bucks, if they lost game 2, I mean, that would have been one of the biggest shockers of the century. The Bucks had to win game 2. They were the better team over the Orlando Magic. It was a major upset that they lost game 1 to begin with. I'm really happy that their bench players or their supporting cast, I might say, like Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton and Corver, they stepped up and actually provided Giannis with the help that he needs. But I think the Miami Heat is the most impressive one because you got a guy like Duncan Robinson who went 7 for 8 from 3. Jimmy Butler didn't really have to do too much. It was just an all-around great effort by the Miami Heat, and they've looked super dominant in the first 2 games against the Indiana Pacers. I get it. It's against the Pacers who are depleted without Domantas Sabonis, but hey, it's still really, really impressive what they've been able to do thus far, and they've looked like the second best team in the East so far in their first 2 games.
So, John, we have a vote for Milwaukee and a vote for Miami. How about you? More impressive victory in game 2 in your mind, the Heat or the Bucks?
The Bucks victory was expected, as Isaiah said, so I'm going with the Miami Heat as well. The Miami Heat, look, they have surprised a lot of people. Earlier in the year, they were already considered a sleeper in the East. I don't feel that way about them anymore. I think they are a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference. I think they very well can end up going to the NBA Finals. They have a loaded team with a lot of talented players. You mentioned it, Isaiah. Duncan Robinson is an amazing shooter. Oh my goodness, he has morphed into one of the best three-point shooters in the game today. And then you have Jimmy Butler, who really didn't have to do much today because he got help from his supporting cast. Everyone stepped up. You have Tyler Hero, who comes off the bench. You have Bam, who is arguably the most improved player this year. So I think the Miami Heat what they've been able to do is simply amazing. And then they're coached by Eric Spoelstra, who understands X's and O's and who has done a tremendous job putting this team in a good position to get to where they are now. So it's very impressive what the Miami Heat have been able to accomplish in such a short time. And I think their victory is more impressive. I know it's against the Indiana Pacers, but still, this says a lot about Miami. And if they meet Milwaukee in a 7-game series, I think the Miami Heat could beat the Milwaukee Bucks.
I'm only going with Miami for the sheer fact of Eric Spoelstra, a guy that's traveled the road and back in the playoffs, knows how to win in the postseason, has led a lot of very good teams to the finals, the championships, or at least deep playoff runs. I get Milwaukee winning was one thing, but really, I mean, them getting a losing game 1, though, them and the Lakers both on the ropes in game 1, it is what it is with Milwaukee, but I would probably go with Miami, mainly because, as mentioned, Eric Spoelstra is in fact the guy, and Stephen Wang is writing in behind the scenes. He agrees with Isaiah. Milwaukee had to win game 2. I think, honestly, Trevor, let's just hypothetically go with this before we go to our next segment here. Hypothetically, say that the Lakers and Milwaukee both lose game 2. Who would you have said had more pressure on them to win game 3, Milwaukee or the Lakers?
Ooh. I feel like the Lakers would have more pressure because the Portland Trail Blazers just have a better team than the Orlando Magic. So it's possible for the Portland Trailblazers to continue that momentum and win a game 3, and now it would be a 3-0 Lakers, and people would be panicking. So I think the Lakers would have more pressure compared, because the Portland Trailblazers just have a better team than the Orlando Magic. So there's more pressure on the Lakers in that sense.
Isaiah, how about you? If in fact both the Lakers and Bucks went down 2-0, who would have probably been feeling the most pressure going into game 3?
Steven, do you have that boom goes the dynamite ready? You got that button ready? I disagree with you, Trevor. I think if they went down 0-2, I know Lakers are playing the Trailblazers, who are better than the Magic, but I'm going to say it. It's the Milwaukee Bucks that would have had the most pressure, simply because people will be questioning, hey, when is Giannis leaving or stuff like that? And people are going to be like, oh, the supporting cast is not playing good, and Orlando would have had all the momentum. I know they're not a good, not that good of a team, but the Magic would have won for the first 2 games without their best player in Aaron Gordon, who hasn't played the first 2 games. So given all that, I think that it would be the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Lakers, they have guys that know how to win a championship. They've been there, done that. The Bucks, most of those guys, it's their first time there. So if they go down 0-2, who knows? They might shrivel and then quit.
Stephen, I have an idea that we'll discuss when the program's over about moments like that, so we can kind of, in a way, keep that on Wild Sports Talk. But I still like it, though, again, with the whole boom goes down in my moment. I have an idea, though, we could probably use, though, for this one. Just popped into my head. But, John, in your mind, though, hypothetically, again, Milwaukee Lakers go down 2-0. Who, in your mind, would have probably been feeling the most pressure in game 3, the Bucks or the Lakers?
The Milwaukee Bucks. Look, last year at this time, they were favorites to win and come out of the East, remember? But there was a guy by the name of Kawhi Leonard who led the Raptors to the NBA Finals, and they shocked the world and won a championship. The Milwaukee Bucks were favorite last year. Giannis won the league MVP, probably will win it again this year. The pressure is on the Milwaukee Bucks to pull it off, and it would have been on them had they gone down 2-0. Giannis is considered the best big man in the game right now. The Milwaukee Bucks, they, have been favorites for a very long time. The Lakers, on the other hand, they have 2 proven superstar players. And last year at this time, the Lakers were mediocre. They didn't go to the playoffs. There's your answer right there.
Trev, sorry, man, but you're on your own island again. I'm going with Milwaukee, mainly, as we've already mentioned, though, the Giannis factor, that he may, in fact, walk in free agency. But mainly, though, I would also say, though, like Christy says, high expectations can sometimes turn a young team like Milwaukee kind of in a tailspin. They're not used to probably having that big or that high expectation bar set, when you have such a great regular season and a very young team, a lot of journeymen and veterans a part of that. But I think, though, that the whole thing of them maybe falling behind the 8 ball 2-0, and maybe Giannis, if they don't get to the finals or they lose somewhere in the playoffs, that he might leave and go somewhere else. So I think that's probably where I would go with that one on that hypothetical situation. By the way, Stephen Wang telling me with the poll that we had run earlier on in the show about the best team in the Western Conference, 60% of the voters picked the Lakers over the Clippers as the best team in the Western Conference by a 60-40 voting margin. So thanks to all of our viewers for voting. And also about the question we just posed about a more impressive game or a more impressive game to win, even 50-50 with both Miami and Milwaukee. With that, Isaiah, we'll start with you on this one because before we came on air tonight was the NBA draft lottery for the upcoming first-year player entry draft coming very shortly. Again, of course, LaMelo Ball is a part of this draft, as is some other big names in college. With that, guys, some notable spots first, and then we'll react to this. Notably, the New York Knicks clocked at number 8 in the draft lottery. Cleveland clocks in at 5. Your top 3 in order from 3 to 1. Charlotte, Golden State, and the number 1 overall pick belongs to Steven and his Minnesota Timberwolves for the upcoming first-year player draft. Isaiah, react to me. What do you have to say about the draft lottery again with New York picking 8th, Cleveland at 5, and again though Golden State at 2, Charlotte at 3, but also again Minnesota probably has a chance to maybe either make history with this number 1 overall draft pick or ruin another number 1 draft pick. What do you got for us?
Well, first of all, tomorrow, make sure you guys all tune in to First Take because that Stephen A. Smith rant on the New York Knicks is going to be legendary. I mean, the New York Knicks were projected to get the 5th pick, and they somehow, some way, with all their terrible luck, jumped from 5 all the way back to number 8. So poor New York, man. They just nothing ever goes right for them. But in terms of the draft lottery, listen. LaMelo Ball, I mean, Steven, can you put on the full screen, please? You guys see that picture in my screen right there? That picture, that avatar, whatever thingy? The Warriors really are going to land LaMelo Ball. That's unfreaking believable because first, Minnesota doesn't really need LaMelo because they have D'Angelo Russell who needs the ball in his hand. LaMelo needs the ball in his hand as well. So they're probably going to take Anthony Edwards, the guard out of Georgia, which, listen, my guy Stephen Wang, even though his Timberwolves got the number 1 pick, he's out there sulking and not joining our show today because, first of all, he had a bet on the LaMelo Ball being the number 1 pick, which is not going to happen now since the Wolves aren't going to take him. They have D'Angelo Russell, who's ball dominant, and they're probably going to take Anthony Edwards. And the second thing, this is going to anger Steven even more, is that now with LaMelo Ball going to the Golden State Warriors, most likely, I mean, wow, man, the Warriors just got even more dynamic. And let's not forget this too. The Warriors, they don't have to draft LaMelo with the number 2 pick. They have a mighty weapon now in their arsenal. They can take that number 2 pick. They can take Andrew Wiggins. They can take Draymond Green and package it to maybe Philadelphia for a Joel Embiid if he's unhappy where he is, or even a Ben Simmons, because I've heard that Philly maybe if they lose if they lose in the first round, they're going to trade either Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. Imagine Joel Embiid with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. I mean, my God, the Warriors, they have a ton of options with this pick. The league should be scared. You got Curry coming back. You got Thompson coming back. You have the potential to either add a young, talented player in either LaMelo Ball or James Wiseman, or you can go out and get Joel Embiid. I mean, my God, like it's really scary, man. And it's just, I hope LaMelo goes to the Warriors because it would be good for him. And also, I want to see LeVar Ball in the Bay Area. But yeah, man, it's crazy.
Wow, that was amazing. I'm going to applaud Stephen Wang for that one. That was close, but I have another one I've been thinking of. In perspective, folks, here is how the draft lottery results went tonight from 14-1 right now. It'll be Boston at 14 from Memphis by virtue of some clauses with the trade or trades maybe that were made. New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, Phoenix, 14-10. Washington at 9. Knicks at 8. The Pistons falling to 7 in the order, followed by Atlanta at 6, Cleveland at 5, Chicago at 4, Charlotte at 3, Golden State 2, and of course Minnesota at 1. This also, by the way, folks, is the second time in Wolves history they have that they will select number 1 overall in club history. But again, Trevor, I think though that notably again the Knicks fall to 8, the Pistons fall to 7, and I think they had some pretty high odds to be in the top 3 somewhere. Cleveland's at 5, Chicago's at 4. Charlotte jumping from perhaps 8 to 3, a very big jump for the Hornets. And then, of course, the Warriors and then the Wolves winning the number 1 overall pick. Trevor, what are your takeaways from the draft lottery results from this evening?
I think it's going to be interesting when the lottery comes around. I wonder to see what team's going to trade up and get certain players. And the funniest one I would like to see is the Knicks trade up and they get a player that they don't need, and watch all the Knicks fans just rage. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're probably going to move up to like 6. just move up a little bit
You think
early.
Atlanta would deal away the 6th pick to New York? You really think so?
I mean, it depends what's at stake. That's what it's going to really boil down to. But I want to see where the magic is, and in that sense where things can happen, some switcheroonies and all that stuff. But I think probably the top 3 or 4 are probably going to stay the same. Like 5 and back where things could get interesting. People trying to move up to get certain players.
John, if there's one thing I enjoy most about the NBA draft night is with Trevor's point, I definitely agree that it's probably fun for sports fans to watch the New York Knicks fan base erupt into flames when they draft somebody they don't need or no one's heard of. I think my favorite one was when they drafted Kevin Knox, and it was that one kid and his dad there wearing like the Knicks, like whatever, it was a Knicks jersey with like the very weird like checkerboard on the sleeves. Like he was going crazy. Then they draft Kevin Knox and he's just like, F my life pretty much in that way. But John, though, give us your takeaways again. Like I said, though, the Cavs at 5. The Hornets went from 8 in the pre-draft odds to 3rd in this. The Pistons fell to 7th. And again, Minnesota, for the second time in club history, wins the lottery. John, give us your thoughts on tonight's results for the upcoming NBA draft.
Yeah, Knicks fans' reactions could be very comical, by the way. I thought I'll throw that out there. That's always
Steven has a very great point down below. The Knicks fans booed when they drafted Kristaps Porzingis. Shameful franchise.
Yeah.
I agree. John, go for it.
Those fans have suffered from misery for so long that they're just tired of it. But yes, Minnesota got the number 1 pick. And this will be interesting to see how it all unfolds. This is something you have to sit back and watch. I know LaMelo is projected to go to the Knicks with the number 8 pick. I'm telling you, that's not a good spot for him to go. I'm with Isaiah. I think he's better off going to Golden State. But I don't know if Golden State might keep this pick. It's going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade this pick for an NBA superstar that's already, in his prime, or a veteran player who can come in and make an immediate impact. Maybe a Joel Embiid or someone else that's probably on their radar. I don't know what direction these teams plan on taking, but I think the Golden State Warriors getting a top pick, it'll be interesting to see if they draft a young player out of college to come join the Splash Brothers, or if they trade that pick like the Lakers did a year ago.
With that, we're going to bring Stephen Wang, our producer and engineer behind the scenes, on air now to get his thoughts on this again. Stephen, growing up in Minnesota, being a big Wolves fan, he'll join us in a second here, actually, with that in mind. Stephen, man, obviously the Wolves, of course, missing out on the postseason this year, and for the second time in club history, they'll have the number 1 overall pick. Stephen, give us your thoughts about the Wolves getting the number 1 overall pick this season.
It's a little bit of jubilation and disappointment at the same time. As Isaiah knows, I had a bet going for LaMelo Ball getting the number 1 overall pick. I got great odds on those, 16 to win $80. So definitely great value out of that bet. And on the other hand, I also am quite disappointed that LaMelo Ball is not going to be the guy in Minnesota, because they already have a seasoned veteran point guard in D'Angelo Russell to pair with Karl Anthony Towns. And of course, there are those rumors. I know, Trevor, you think he's going to the Orlando Magic, but there are those rumors that Devin Booker will be headed to Minnesota. So it doesn't really make sense for the Wolves to go guard heavy here. So while they land the number 1 overall pick, Callan, their history with superstars and top draft picks doesn't have me feeling too confident. I know they're not quite the New York Knicks when it comes to draft lotteries and a franchise, but they're pretty darn close.
Ouch.
Yeah, they're definitely pretty close for sure. And again, we'll see how that in fact rolls out. But once again, everyone, the results here of the results of the lottery again. James Gonzalez is right back at it. He says, "Yikes! The Knicks lost out again." So again, folks, notably here, New York will pick 8th right now. Cleveland at 5, your top 3. Charlotte at number 3. Golden State at 2, and the Wolves at number 1 overall in the draft lottery. With that, guys, before we get to our Power 5, I do in fact need to bring this up because we had baseball history made tonight for the first time first time ever in this game's history. A team hit 4 consecutive grand slams in 4 straight games. And John, I am sorry, but it's the San Diego Padres making baseball history for the first time in this game's long-standing history. The Friars hit their 4th consecutive grand slam, a home run or a granny, in all 4 games versus Texas. Walked off tonight in 10 innings over the Rangers, 8-7. And again, Trevor, like I said, man, we have not seen this feat ever accomplished in baseball history. And baseball's been going on since 1876 in the majors. It took until 2020 and a team wearing brown and gold and the San Diego Padres to hit a grand slam in 4 consecutive games. And I know, guys, that we have seen teams hitting home runs like in consecutive games. Like and honestly, I remember this one. I know the Rangers had a couple years ago where they had 3 straight games of walk-off homers to beat the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, California, 92806, Milky Way Galaxy, planet Earth. But Trevor, in the entire time that we've had baseball played at the major league level, it took until 2020 for someone to do 4 straight grand slams, and it happens to be the Padres who did it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all against Texas. So, Trevor, baseball history, man, what do you have to say about it? I think, honestly, guys, we've seen a lot in baseball over the past several years and several decades of, guys getting close to 400, a Triple Crown winner, the Cubs breaking their World Series drought, and now, guys, we had another layer to this with 4 consecutive grand slams by one organization, finally in baseball history. So, Trev, what do you have to say, man? It's insane.
This is amazing. I don't know how to put the words to describe it because just think about it. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 grand slams. That's unheard of. It's an amazing feat. But think about it. The MLB is 162 games. You think that would happen more often or close to each other? But it took them this long in a weird predicament, in a weird season with 60 games for this to happen. This is just like a miracle on ice, basically. We're going to put some hockey in there. So I like this. I hope we can see more in the future. But, congrats, and let's see if more history can be made. Let's see if they can make it, 5 in a row.
Steve and I agree, though. Let's hope it's not a grand collapse for those Padres down the road. Well, the bullpen blew it again tonight, so we can just say that right here and right now. And James says the Padres may hit 6 or 7 grannies versus the Angels pitching when they play them in September in Anaheim and in San Diego. And also the poll results about the number 1 pick, a tie for LaMelo, James Wiseman, and Anthony Edwards for the top overall spot. John, I'll go to you on this one because, again, we just lost Isaiah right here. He's been having some tech problems. And, again, I think it's the weather probably and things of that nature. But, again, John, like we have said, though, I knew that this year was going to be very weird. We were going to have a lot of different things going on, a lot of weird records set. We've seen 7-inning doubleheaders. We've seen a lot of things. And we probably likely see a guy like Charlie Blackmon, for example, maybe hit 400 this year in a very condensed season schedule. But John, though, for the first time in baseball's history, a team finally hit 4 consecutive grand slams, and it happened to be the Padres. And again, it all kind of started with the whole, brouhaha on Monday with the Rangers, and then it continued on to Tuesday last night, which was a walk-off grand slam for Manny Machado. Then tonight, of course, Eric Hosmer, another one of the Padres superstars being paid a lot of money to produce finally. But John, though, man, I know it probably is tough to see the rivals doing it, but man, first time, though, in baseball history that a club has hit 4 consecutive grand slams in 4 straight games.
It took this long in a pandemic year. 2020 is going to have its own history book.
I agree, man.
There has been so much that has happened, not only in the sports world, but in this country in general. And now you have this happen. 4 consecutive home runs? Really? In 4 nights? That is unreal. That is unheard of. It's never happened in our lifetimes. Congratulations to your San Diego Padres. They earned it. They obviously have great hitters on that team to do something like that. And if there's one team that's probably throwing a fit by now, it's the sensitive Texas Rangers. Because, man, did they really take it to them? And, it's just unbelievable what we're seeing in 2020. And now you see a baseball team that's in the history books for 4 consecutive grand slams. We've never seen this happen, Colin. It's amazing. It's a historic feat. And now the Padres own their own page in the history books. Amazing.
Isaiah, I say this a lot, and maybe it's still some false hope or false optimism for the Padres this season. But 9 times out of 10, though, Isaiah, the Padres are on the wrong side of history like this. Like it'd be like the Dodgers, for example, hitting 4 grand slams in 4 straight games against the Padres. They would always be the team on the other side of the spectrum with stuff like this. And again, I know it started, though, on Monday with the whole, the whole, blown out of proportion 3-0 swing by Tatis Jr. Then it was Will Myers in the first inning of the game on Tuesday afternoon. Then last night it was the Machado walk-off slam. After, by the way, the Padres fell behind in the 10th inning with that rule in place with the runner on second base. And literally the Rangers went ahead 3-2 on a ball hit 70 feet in the infield that was a bit of miscommunication. And then it was the runner on second, a sac bunt, 2 walks, and then the Machado grand slam. Then tonight it was the Padres leading, or they were ahead, I believe, or maybe down a run. And it was Eric Hosmer hitting one onto the home run deck in right field to put him up 5-2. Then, of course, the bullpen implodes again tonight in the 9th inning, up by a run after they had just tied the game and went ahead in the 8th inning on solo homers. And now, of course, but I think, though, Isaiah, John said it right, though. This year in sports for 2020, the postseason for the NHL, the NBA, MLS, all this going on, it's going to be its own chapter of sports history going on right now. But again, though, John, at this point in time, but Isaiah, though, I know that you are accustomed to walk-off grand slams like every other night up in Oakland, but how about 4 straight grand slams in 4 straight games, though, for the first time in the game's, historic history?
I was just going to mention that, actually. I was going to say, Callan, I think me and your team are destined to meet in the World Series. I mean, we both love hitting we both love hitting grand slams. I think the A's have hit 3 grand slams this entire year, and the Padres just hit 4 in one series. It's freaking unbelievable, man. But back to the point about the Rangers and the Padres. Chris Woodward can suck it, man. He can absolutely suck it. You complain that the Padres, that Tatis came and swung at 3-0 and hit a grand slam. Well, here's 3 more grand slams for you, Mr. Woodward. So, hey. That's why you never, ever, ever be petty or complain about soft things like this, is because karma's gonna always bite you, and this is exactly what happened. So great for the Padres, man. The Rangers absolutely deserve this.
That might be as good as boom goes the dynamite now that I think about it. So, John, don't feel bad. There's one now for Isaiah with the Price is Right losing horn nonetheless, or something like that.
Nice.
By the way, got to give props to someone who made this new shirt design for the Slam Diego Padres. I really dig that. It's the Padres road uniform design right there. And by the way, the Padres actually, folks, changed their name on Twitter to the Slam Diego Padres tonight when this game, did in fact go on. So, yes, the Padres, first time in baseball history, 4 grand slams in 4 straight games. Never been done before in the game history. But with that, folks, again, now with that in mind, Stephen, we're going to move on now to tonight's Power 5. I said it last show, but I'll say it again. I feel like I'm getting ready to deliver the 10 o'clock news now to the wonderful viewers out there with hearing the Power 5 music. But with that, folks, it is Power 5 time for episode 3 here, season 2, episode 3 here of No BS. And tonight, guys, going a bit off the cliff of sports today. Steve and I agree, I love the segment as well. With that, guys, it is going to be the Power 5, top 5, or our 5 favorite Disney theme park rides tonight. For this one, of course, I've been a loyal annual pass holder for the past roughly 5 or 6 years. And John, I agree, buddy. It's definitely going to be a fun one. With that, Trevor, we'll let you start with your Power 5 for Disney rides for tonight's Power 5.
I know people are not going to be happy with my number 5th spot because people are going to be saying like, "Oh, you should put It's a Small World on there." No, I'm not putting that on the list. That I could see you could argue for a top 10 spot, but no, this is a Power 5 for a reason. So my number 5 is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, the only ride that's been
Classic.
converted from a ride into a movie. Then that movie franchise was able to take off and be successful. That's why I have it on the list. My number 4 is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. For me as a child, I was able to get on that ride when I first went to Disney back in like 2003, and I love trains, so it was like a perfect ride for me. So that's why I have it on the 4th spot. Number 3 is Splash Mountain. You got to have a log flume on this ride because, you know, going through all the different waterfalls and getting wet, that was the key moment into amusement park rides. And number 2, I will put the Tower of Terror, the classic, just riding up in the elevator, going all the way to the top. Once you hit the top, you plummet. And it's just like a lot of screaming going all the way down. It's a great time. But nothing can beat my number 1. My number 1 pick will be Space Mountain. I love it. It's a great experience. The lights, the cameras. And I'll never forget when I went to Disney the second time, I went on it. I saw the person in back of me in my car figure out where all the cameras were and start doing different poses, going like this all the way down. It was beautiful when I saw it at the end. I was like, they know how to do amusement park rides, and that's why I put Space Mountain number 1 on my list.
Oh, we're going to have some fun when the theme park does reopen and John and me and Trevor go to the park eventually sometime very soon or later on. Isaiah, how about you for top 5 Disney theme park attractions and rides?
All right, before I give my list, I got to make a confession to our No BS audience, and that is the reason why I don't have Space Mountain on the list is because I've never been on Space Mountain. Can you believe that, guys? I have never, ever, ever been on Space Mountain. It looks like Callan might walk off the set any minute.
John?
I've never been Splash Mountain in my life. I don't know, like maybe I've only been to Disney like 2 times, and it's just every time I go there, it's like the line is super long, and you know I don't want to wait in that line. I'd rather go and grab one of those drumsticks and eat it or whatever. But yeah, I've never been on Space Mountain. But here's my top 5. Number 5, I'm going to go with the Jungle Cruise. The Jungle Cruise, the reason why is because you're on a boat, right? You're riding in a river, and that you actually see like real animals. And also in the end of the cruise, they actually have fire that spout up. It's like really, really intense. That's why I have that as my number 5. My number 4 is going to be the Ferris wheel. You know that legendary Ferris wheel with the Mickey Mouse face on it? That's just so iconic. I went up there, and the view from up there is really, really good. I really recommend you guys all to go on it. The Mickey Mouse face Ferris wheel is my number 4. My number 3 is going to be the Indiana Jones ride. You know, like I was scared back when I was a little kid going on that, but hey, now that I look back on it, like it was a really, really fun ride. There's a lot of like you go into a cave or something like that, so it's really good. Number 2 is Splash Mountain, man. Splash Mountain, definitely. Like Trevor said, you know, when you go to Disneyland, you got to get wet because it's really hot down in Anaheim. So Splash Mountain for me is number 2. And number 1, by the way, before I reveal my number 1, I just got to give a disclaimer. You guys all might walk off the set once I give my number 1, and that is It's a Small World. My number one
Good night.
is It's a Small World. Oh, even he's gone. Even get Trevor. Oh, but hey, it's a small
I'll
world
be
because you're
back.
riding in that boat. It's like really cute with the song and all the graphics and the sculptures that you see. It's just really, really cute. That's what I love.
We'll get back on track. After that, I mean, believe me, I love Small World as much as the next guy, but I need to put my headphones in to listen to like some like heavy duty metal or rock and roll to listen to have those dolls like headbang into like Slipknot or something like that. With that, John, you and I have talked Disney a couple times, on different podcasts before we actually knew each other on for the MI6 and stuff like that. Christy, this happens every so often. We all walk off set when Isaiah gives us a bunch of funny baloney nonsense. But John, this is probably going to be tough for you and me to figure out a Power Five because as often as we go to the park, that we love all the rides that are in Disneyland or in California Adventure. So this is probably like the hardest Power Five I've already had to do and like think of even in general. But John, I'll let you try to lay the foundation, man. What's your Power Five for Disney theme park attractions?
Well, like sports, I grew up a huge Disney fan. I love Disney. I'm a Disney Plus subscriber. I've seen a lot of the movies. I used to collect a lot of Disney items. I was once an annual pass holder, and I used to go to the park religiously. I would go sometimes 3 times, twice a week. Sometimes I would just go not to even get on a ride, just to walk around and have dinner with my family, and we will have a good time and enjoy the night. But my Power Five, and starting with my five, it would be the Haunted Mansion. I like the Haunted Mansion. That's a fun ride. To me, it's an underrated ride, and it's really fun to explore during the winter months, during the
Yes.
holiday season, because they put the Nightmare Before Christmas theme in there. So if you haven't gotten to that, make sure you do. It's breathtaking. It's inspired by the Disney movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, a movie I've seen over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then my fourth would have to be uh, Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder Mountain is a fun roller coaster ride. It's like you're sitting in the train, but there's a lot of cuts and twists and turns, and you go around the mountain. I like the end part where you kind of splash in the water a little bit. That's just a fun ride to get on. And then my number three would have to be Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is an underrated ride as well. It's jerky, it bounces a lot. It's a thrilling ride. It's really, really fun. And then towards the end, I don't want to spoil it for people who's never been, but I maybe I shouldn't spoil it. But most of you guys know how it ends, and that's my third. And my number two would have to be Star Tours. Star Tours has always been one of my favorite rides. I'm a big Star Wars lover. I've seen all the Star Wars movies. I even collect Star Wars stuff. I'm obsessed, overly obsessed with Baby Yoda. So Star Tours is definitely on my list. And we're down to number one now.
Yes.
Number one would have to be Space Mountain. It's a shame that I had to leave Splash Mountain off the list, but Space Mountain is number one. Hey, it's the best roller coaster that Disney has to offer, and it's one of the oldest roller coasters around. And I don't know if you guys ever ridden on it with the lights on. I've ridden on it being pitch dark and with the lights on. With the lights on, you can see the track. You're really high up, and you're just going like this, basically, all the way down. And it's a really fun, thrilling ride as well. If you've never been on Splash Mountain and you've been to Disneyland a number of times, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
In perspective, folks, this is just like one of the many Disney shirts I own based off of the Sword and the Stone. right here, which is
Yes.
one of my next
Yes,
tattoo.
Sword in the Stone.
One of my next tattoo ideas that I have. Like I said, I've had an annual pass for like the past 5 years, and this is probably one of the hardest lists to like ever compile because everyone has their favorites. But I'm going to go with number 5 for me being Star Tours. As the next guy, as much as, I mean, if you folks can't tell, I have 2 lightsabers on top of my bedroom shelf here that are always on display up here. And I'm as much of a Star Wars geek as the next guy for sure. Mainly Star Tours, even when they did the redo where it's now all in 3D, stuff like that for sure. So Star Wars, Star Tours in general, love the ride, love it in 3D as well. Number 4 on my list is Splash Mountain. Always go on that. Like today would have been, I even sat on my couch and looked at the weather. I'm like, today would have been a great day for Splash Mountain. Like a couple times, just kind of, cool off, stand in line, things like that. Number 3 is Indiana Jones. I do that ride every time solo. My dad used to go on a lot, but he doesn't like waiting in line. So I go a single rider by myself, which we'll have to teach. John, I think we'll have to teach Isaiah how to kind of get through stuff like the fast pass line and the single rider so we can start more rides there.
I'll tell you guys my system if you guys want to hear it after.
I actually picked Indy over the Matterhorn. I don't know if I should have kept it, but I enjoy the Matterhorn too. So that's like 3. That's 3 for me though. Number 2 is Space Mountain for me. I enjoy it. Usually it's the first ride I get on when I go to the park in the morning. Fast pass to go on at night. But typically, I'm a sucker for like onboard soundtracks. Like I like one that they play on the ride, but also I have the they did a thing back in 2007 where they had the Red Hot Chili Peppers play the remake of Higher Ground by Stevie Wonder for like a little promotion that they had run. But guys, my number 1 favorite ride, I know Isaiah was referring to a ride in California Adventure. We said the Ferris wheel. That's actually the fun wheel that we call it. But number 1 for me, I know Trevor said it though about the Tower of Terror. I will go with Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, the new version of the Tower of Terror in California Adventure. A retheming of the ride. It's the same elevator, but it's all based off Marvel Comics. I'm a big Marvel fan as well. That's also another tattoo idea I have coming very shortly with the Winter Soldier. That's another one. But I, for one, enjoyed the Tower of Terror, but I really enjoyed going to, I love Mission Breakout way more. It's way more fun. You laugh a bit more than you scream, and also you can't prepare for when you actually drop and rise because because in a nutshell, there's 6 different songs that are used in the ride. So depending on which song is picked by Rocket the Raccoon, you get different drop sequences. So for example, I can go on, John and I can go on and get Pat Benatar one time, but go on again later and get Parliament or get Steppenwolf or the Edgar Winter Group or Elvis, and they all have different ride visuals, different drop sequences. The start and finish is always, but in the middle though, everything changes. So that is my Power 5 though for Disney attractions at this time, and that was a very hard one for me to figure out. But with that though, Trev, how about final thoughts for the night's program?
This is perfect. I love it. I can't wait to go to amusement parks this summer. And I know I'm at Ohio State, so once that finishes and I get my diploma, I might head off to Cedar Point and get some thrills on roller coasters. So we could do a Power 5 on roller coasters at some point in the near distant future. So excited about that. For me, this is one of those late night shows, so it's like 1:15 a.m. So my second ever late show. So I'm thrilled about that. So you guys are probably going to make me do a third one at some distant time in the future, so I'm excited for that. But hey, it was a fantastic show. Can't wait to do more shows with you guys in the future.
Definitely for sure, Trev, as the school year gets back underway, man, and good luck with that. Isaiah, how about you, man, with final thoughts for the night's program?
Yeah, my final thoughts is I think you guys need to drag me from the Bay to come to Southern California and go to Disneyland, because the last time I went, I think I was like 8 or 9. That's how long it's been, and I'm not 22 now, so it's been like 14 years since the last time I went to Disneyland, but I definitely the next time I go to Disneyland, I gotta check out some of these rides you guys were talking about. Because back then when I went, I was like a little kid, so I wasn't going on any of these like these haunted terror or haunted house or Splash Mountain or not Splash Mountain, Space Mountain. But I gotta go on Space Mountain. I definitely gotta go on Space Mountain. I don't care if I'm waiting in line for like 3 hours or even 4 hours to do it. I gotta do it, man. I gotta check that off my bucket list. But it's been a great show, man. It's been a great show. Glad that the Lakers won, and LaMelo Ball is going to Golden State, so I'm a blessed man.
Oh man, John, how about you, man? Again, thanks for coming on. Talk some Laker basketball, talk some NBA, talk some baseball, and above all, man, talk Disney, man. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Again, thanks for being here.
that
What
was awesome.
final thoughts for you? Good. So, what do you got?
This was a fantastic show tonight. I want to thank you guys for having me on. Don't forget about some of the great parades that Disney offered too, Colin.
Yes.
When I was young, there was an all Goofy parade. I don't know if you guys were born yet or you guys don't remember, but there was an all Goofy parade. And it was one of the best parades that Disney ever put together. But my all-time favorite is the Main Street Electrical Parade. That is the best parades. No other parade tops that. And then Fantasmic, of course. That's a wonderful show. We all need to plan a Disney trip at one point. That'll be great.
We have to.
We have to do that. But this was an awesome show tonight and a great win for the Lakers. You guys were wonderful. And hey, let's stay consistent. Let's keep doing this thing. This thing is doing wonderful. It's fabulous.
Yeah, we're making some headway, and definitely, just talking Disney tonight made it that much better. So we'll definitely, folks, we'll definitely work on that when, of course, more things slowly get back to normal very soon. We very hope, and of course, folks, check John and I out on both the SoCal Sports Chronicle, and of course, you can catch me every weekday morning at 11:45 a.m. on the Quarantine Network, of course, with the sports updates every day or every weekday at 11:45 a.m. And yes, congrats to the Lakers for the big win tonight over the Portland Trailblazers. With that, folks, we want to thank all of our guests. Thank our man, Freddie Henderson, and also Big Baby John for joining us as well. And, of course, also our main guy, John Mathis, also joining us tonight as well. And, again, a major shout-out, too, as well to all of our viewers. And, again, to Christy Wilson and everyone else who wrote in tonight and who tuned in. And, again, folks, we'll come back with you folks back here for WST on Monday. But, of course, folks, we'll have quarantine chats for you folks tomorrow night back here at roughly 5:30 p.m. back here on the 6th, the MI6 Sports Network. With that, folks, for Isaiah Leung, Trevor Williams, Big Baby Jonathan, and also as well for Freddie Cooper, and also for John Mathis and our producer and engineer behind the scenes, Shareable Stephen Wang. My name is Cal McClurg saying good night, and thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you folks back here tomorrow for quarantine chats, and also back on Monday to kick off a new week on Wild Sports Talk back here on Monday. Till then, folks, have a great rest of your night. And so long. Bye-bye.
Yeah. 3-6, Mafia. Whoa. Hey. Whoa. Say what? 3-6, Mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street.